Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. This is Yankees Unloaded. And in case you missed us, and obviously a lot of you guys just watched us, we try to do this daily. The Yankees did win a game finally. They won the other day as well, but we had talked about it yesterday, Gary. And I said I really liked what we saw from the offense. I thought the pitching let him down. Well, today both sides had a marriage. Okay, the offense, and the pitching was there. You like to see that. Bickford was DFA'd because that dude probably gave up the game yesterday, if we're being honest.
Here,
So, but
yeah, it was unfortunate. I mean, I guess you feel bad for Gonzalez, right? We DFA'd him. We're like, oh, the reason we DFA'd you is because we got this other guy in Phil
Yeah.
Bickford who punches guys out. You fast forward a week and a half. Was it even a week and a half? And he was gone. So, but I guess we'll talk about the important people. The most important guy today was Gerrit Cole. Gerrit Cole was a player, and I actually text you while it was happening. I guess we were doing a stretch and toss in the middle of the game with Gerrit Cole on the mound. I mean, they scared the shit out of me. I'm going to be completely honest with you. They really did, because you don't want to see a guy who half of Major League Baseball thinks we're delaying the inevitable, which is Tommy John surgery for Gerrit Cole. And then the other side of the coin is that the Yankees have been extremely patient. They sent Gerrit Cole down. They gave him a huge amount of time off, huge break. Then they sent him down to the minor leagues, had rehab assignment after rehab assignment, maybe 2 or 3 starts. And then he told us, yeah, I feel fine. I feel ready. We put him on a pitch count. We did all these things, all these extra precautions. He gets out there, and then you see someone warming up in the first inning behind him. It scared the shit out of me, as I said.
You texted me, like, I think Cole's going to be out for the year. Or
I was terrified, man.
Yeah.
I was losing it.
So it's funny. I actually missed all of the tweets because I was hanging out with my friend watching the game, and I missed all the tweets, just kind of put my phone away. Wasn't really looking at Twitter, just really texting you. And it's funny because you're seeing this and I didn't see any of it. So I had no idea what you were talking about. And then I saw him and I was like, oh, Majewski, or however you say his name, just got called up. Didn't really have a lot of opportunity to get going and throw and everything. So yeah, it sounds like they did like a stretch and toss early on in the game, which, to be fair to you, that isn't really that common. It happens, and it definitely happens in the case of him, late call up today, all of that. But yeah, I can get why you were a little freaked out by that. But I will tell you right now, I was a little freaked out early on about Gerrit Cole. I didn't love his, I would say this. People really focus on velocity. And what we found out is that the velocity drop off, last start was deliberate. It was, he did that on purpose, which is a good thing. And it shows control. I didn't feel like he had control early on in this game. He was missing his spots. He was getting a little annoyed with Austin Wells. Now, to give Austin Wells credit, this is his first time catching the Cy Young, the reigning Cy Young winner. And to give Boone credit, he didn't just, stand down and like, oh, well, we have to put Trevino in because this is Cole's catcher. He was like, no, we want Austin Wells in this lineup because of the way he just hit last night. We need to give him another opportunity. So I like that. I thought the way Cole responded after that first run was really impressive. He struck out the side in one of the innings.
Well, how about the double play ball?
The double play ball was huge.
The double play ball was like one of the biggest pitches.
The knuckle curve, man.
The knuckle curve was great, but did you see all the credit he gave to Austin Wells? So yes, we might give, you might get Gerrit Cole some crap, or we may pay attention to the fact that he was really tough on Austin Wells in the beginning of this game, but he's also gonna at the same time pick him up. If he does something right, he's going to be the first guy to give him credit, because Gerrit Cole's he's not an asshole. Okay. So he's a competitor. And when you put a young player in position of battle with a guy who clearly thinks he's ready to dominate in the big leagues, well, you need to bring your A game. You need to get better. And sometimes you need to be pushed. And I think that's what Gerrit Cole does with his teammates, is he just continuously pushes them. And in general, you have to imagine Austin Wells is going to get much better behind the plate, getting these assignments. Now, do I expect to see Austin Wells the next time Gerrit Cole pitches? We don't really know because we actually talked about the games played. It's about split, which is kind of shocking because it feels like Austin Wells hardly plays, but it kind of goes to show how much he played at the beginning of the year. You mentioned
Yeah.
they kind of just gave him the job. And right now, I mean, it just seems like they're just like flat out splitting the role there. So yeah, we don't know necessarily what this means for the future, but as far as Gerrit Cole was pretty deliberate today. He was very slow. He was working to the end of the pitch count, but overall, he executed when he had to, and that's really all you can ask for from an ace.
And it got him his first win of the year, which we love to see. Kevin Gausman, on the other hand, and I thought he did a good job of getting out of some jams, but it eventually, it all came out in the wash in the end. And he gave up 7 runs. Obviously, was taken out. Bullpen didn't help. This is the worst bullpen in baseball, by the way. So, not a shock. But I want to know what the hell was going through Gausman's head. You have an ailing and struggling Verdugo. Why are you ever throwing that pitch to Judge in the first inning? I don't even know. I don't know what he was thinking. I have no idea. Soto just ripped one, okay? And he wasn't even supposed to be in the lineup today. And we'll get to that. But I just don't understand. Aaron Judge has 30 home runs to this point, now 31, which is more than he had in 2022 at this point in time. I don't know what he was thinking trying to get one by Judge, but it was bad. Horrible pitch selection. Judge has had a lot of success against Gausman. And I said it right then and there, kind of, I really felt that was the game. I felt like that was really kind of, okay, if they can score in the first inning, I feel really good about this team. But, and we'll get to them. The 5 through 9 hitters are the reason, make no mistake about it, that they won. Even though Judge, his 2 runs was enough to win the game, I really feel like the 5 through 9 just completely sucked any sort of life out of this team. When you have guys at the bottom of the lineup hitting the way they did, I mean, all across the board, you got to give LeMahieu credit today. He was really good, 2 for 5.
8 hits, 5 through 9, by the way. The 5 through 9 spot in the lineup, if you put up 8 hits and your 2 and 3 hitters look like Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, and Judge that day goes deep, you're not losing any games. And that's part of the reason why we bring in guys like Gerrit Cole. Hopefully Rodon kind of rebounds, Nestor Cortez, all those starts where you say, hey, he gave up 2 or 3 runs, but we needed a little better, right? We needed a heroic effort. When you get this type of production out of your lineup, it doesn't matter really who's pitching. You just need to be serviceable that day. And the Yankees have more than enough serviceable pitchers in the rotation and in the bullpen to expect to win every night. So do I expect this type of performance often at the bottom of the lineup? I don't, because frankly, I mean, you can say like DJ LeMahieu, Grisham, like some of these guys are question marks going forward. And just because you see Grisham and LeMahieu get 4 hits today doesn't mean all our prayers are answered.
No.
But let's be clear. If they do give us production, if the bottom of the lineup produces in any way, shape, or form, this team doesn't lose games. It's the same thing with Baltimore. It's the same thing with LA. So it's a battle of what the other guys can do. And frankly, that job falls on Brian Cashman. How well did he fill out this roster? What do you expect from these guys long term, not just today? So yeah, we'll cover the game. We're super happy with what they did, but we need to see this more often. I love the at-bats from Ben Rice.
2
had
walks,
1 hit today.
Huge.
2 walks. Him and Wells, those 2 walks, I mean, they knew what Gausman was trying to do. He was trying to pitch away. You've got a guy at second base already, and you have an understanding, okay, he's going to try to throw me away. They want me to go the opposite field and not advance the runner. It's clear what happened, right? So they were laying off those pitches and frankly looking like veterans out there. So you just have to love that, and you have to imagine that Juan Soto and Aaron Judge are having some impact.
Absolutely. And that's what it comes down to. I mean, I think Soto being in the lineup really helped today. I think him not being in the lineup yesterday really hurt, obviously. But I mean, it's not just, you don't have a great bat in the lineup. I think it also hurts the guys around him. So, Judge hit his 31st today. We love that. Juan Soto re-enlisted himself in the lineup today, which was hilarious. I mean, it was right before the game. The Yankees almost didn't even get a lineup out, within the hour. So that was interesting. Like you mentioned, Ben Rice, just what he was able to do at the plate today was really impressive. Austin Wells, and Ben Rice, I believe, both got into 0-2 counts early on, worked him back to 3-2 and worked a walk. So great stuff there. Glaber had his third straight multi-hit game, Gary, which, I think people are starting to see the bigger picture here. This is really good for, the flexibility at the trade deadline. I think this gives him a lot of opportunity if he continues to hit like this. And, luckily for them, he just needs to do this for another month. You're not asking him to do it the rest of the year. If you're going to trade him at the deadline and strike while the iron's hot, just keep doing this for another month and they're good. Minor league stuff real quick. Spencer Jones had his first 2 home run game of his career.
So I heard.
That was awesome.
There we go.
He had a grand slam. I think he had 6 or 7 RBIs today. So love that. JT Brubaker went 3 innings, gave up no runs, a hit, 3 strikeouts in his Double-A stint. So we love to see that. That's really good stuff. And then a bonus one here. So Yorbeat Vivas, who the Yankees got from the Dodgers, right? It was one of the pickups they traded away Trey Sweeney. And they got Vivas with, I believe it was Caleb Ferguson or it was Gonzalez. It was one of those guys. Vivas was hitting 177 with a 210 slugging percentage just 2 weeks ago, Gary. Okay. Now,
what's he at now?
He's at 255. He has a 398 on base percentage, a 382 slugging percentage. He's 15 for 40 with 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, 5 extra base hits, 9 walks, only 6 strikeouts, and 5 stolen bases. He had 2 injuries this year that was really hurting him. They feel like he's fully healthy now. So I look at a guy like him. I've mentioned Jeter Downs. I've mentioned Caleb Durbin. These are opportunities. These are guys that, later on the year, September call-ups, these guys will have an opportunity to push for some infield time. And I think that is a beautiful thing to see these guys doing what they're doing in the minors right now.
Yeah, and this is one thing I will say about the biggest question, which is value. How much value do the Yankees have in their system? And over the years, Jake, I feel like the Yankees have done a lot of talking. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of the Yankees, but I also have to be realistic. The Yankees told us about Esteban Florio, right? We talked about these names. Yeah. We've talked about Clint Frazier. We've talked about a lot of guys in our system. And the Yankees, specifically Brian Cashman, has said, yeah, we're after this guy. We're on the phone, and eventually we're going to talk on this show about Cody Bellinger, who the Yankees are apparently calling and scouting on. But the Yankees have always talked about, well, we've got all this value in the minor leagues, but we didn't necessarily see the production matching what they're talking about. Things didn't seem to align.
Yeah.
This year, more than any other year I can ever remember, the Yankees minor leagues, the guys in the system in general, are actually outputting something. They're actually, it's not necessarily about whether you win, but when you tell me a guy's got plus power, or you tell me you project a guy as a starting pitcher, the Yankees are no longer talking about it. They're thrusting these players into those roles and showing you what you can trust in. And that, I think, is the difference heading into this deadline. We can't wait for the deadline. On this show, it's going to be incredible. Okay? It's going to be incredible. We're going to be realistic with who we think the Yankees can actually acquire, who they can't. And frankly, when you see, and you're going down the list, 4 or 5 guys deep in Double-A, outputting monster numbers, so where you can actually make a real case that they can make an impact at the big league level. And frankly, when you talk about 5 through 9, today was a good day for the bottom of the lineup. But what if we had no long-term output whatsoever at the catcher's position? Well, then you can say, well, we've seen Ben Rice give us output at that position. We can trust him at the catcher's position, right? We've seen Trevino can't throw. We've seen Austin Wells catch in the minor leagues, perform well, get up to the big leagues. Last year, we played him all year, right? We were playing him. So we know he can catch. So these are the things I think they can help the Yankees long term. They're no longer just telling us. Exactly. So they're no longer just giving us promises, telling us Dominguez is the next Mickey Mantle, and then they just hide him. Not following through. They just hide him in the minor leagues. They don't give him any promotions. No, he actually made it up the ranks. So now the Yankees are starting to look like an organization that's no longer about promises and about value. And I think for the first time in a while, it's going to lead to an aggressive deadline. Maybe not sexy names, but aggressive.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I mean, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And, I'm not like advocating to trade away the whole farm system, but I
Right.
mean, there's some guys that I've, and we have just in general, we've identified as guys that can be game changers for this team. They might not be Hall of Fame players, but they're guys that can come in right away and have a role. And, I think that says a lot. Obviously Tanner Scott and Jazz Chisholm. Anyone that has watched this podcast knows our thoughts on them already. But I mean, if you don't, essentially the Marlins are a great trade partner. That I will just leave it at that. But
For
yeah,
anybody.
it's for anybody, exactly. And it's really interesting because I've seen a lot of people say, well, could the Yankees trade for a starting pitcher? I mean, I'm not going to say they couldn't, but I think that's such a knee jerk reaction to June, which, by the way, Gary, they finished 14-13 in the month of June. So, as bad as the sky was falling and everything, they still finished 500 plus. Or,
Yeah,
so
technically they were just ho hum.
yeah,
And you would expect, okay, let's be honest, Jake. This team, the last month, has been wildly mediocre 5 through 9. Okay. And some could argue 4 through 9. Okay. After
yeah,
Giancarlo Stanton, this team's been wildly mediocre after Aaron Judge in the lineup. Well, if you can agree to that, you absolutely can say our starting rotation, who before today with Gerrit Cole start, before today, they'd given up a run in the first 10, was it the first inning, the last 10 games? That's terrible. Okay. So
yeah,
you would expect to lose pretty much all those games. But you just mentioned we're a 500 ball club in June. We've got nothing out of Clay Holmes, right? Guys in the bullpen are dropping like flies or they're not pitching well. We're dropping names out of the hat, right? Phil Bickford, cut him. Gonzalez, send him packing. We run out of options with another dude. We send him packing. So June was just a complete failure, and our complete failure is 500 baseball. So if it
yeah,
gets better at all, and by the way, our leadoff hitter is hitting like 200 the past 3 weeks. So
yeah.
there's a
He's been
lot
struggling.
he's been struggling. There's absolutely ways that this team can get better and become a monster by getting marginally better at the complementary spots in the lineup. 5 through 9, add maybe one or two arms that you can actually get value out of. I've said it before. I feel like this team right now is a little short on depth. We've talked about some guys are getting their fastballs back, their breaking balls, changeups, all those things. But the Yankees right now are in a position where people, I'm sure, when you watch a team that's this good, have a couple injuries, and then they look kind of anemic, you want to make the big crazy trade. And Jake, I think we both agree on this. It doesn't have to be some insane, hey, force trades, turn that on like MLB The Show, go trade for Vladdy Jr. and then go get, right, the top closer in the game. I don't
Yeah,
think that's the type of deadline we need. I think at
no,
this point, we've got the sexy guys in the lineup. It's about complementary pieces. It's about the small guys being able to get more athletic, and we'll just go from there.
yeah. And I mean, I think the biggest name that the Yankees, well, I guess it's subjective. I mean, who's the bigger name, Cody Bellinger or Jazz Chisholm? I mean, I guess in
Oh,
some
Bellinger
cases,
by far.
there's some people that say Chisholm just because, this year Bellinger isn't having his best year. But I mean, yeah, I think Bellinger's more accomplished, obviously. Bellinger's had seasons where he's hit over 40 home runs, and last year he was great. So let's segue to this. Cody Bellinger, obviously he's still with the Cubs. He ended up signing kind of one of those, I don't really have any other choice but to sign this deal type of
Those
deals.
Boris deals.
Yeah, he's killing it. But the Yankees scouts, pro scouts, reportedly checked out Bellinger. Okay, so they were scouting Bellinger. Typically speaking, you're not doing this. This isn't getting leaked if there's not something here. So I found that really interesting. Now, keep in mind, Bellinger can play outfield. He can also be a first baseman. And it really kind of begs the question, if you go out and get Bellinger, where is he playing? Is Verdugo potentially in that type of deal? Because keep in mind, like, I think there's a potential if Verdugo doesn't, get back to where he was, the Yankees could trade him. And I know we were going to save this, probably for another day because, Verdugo, he had a better day today, had a home run robbed from him. But I'm just going to bring up what a Red Sox follower of mine brought up to me. And it's actually kind of alarming, Gary, because Alex Verdugo had a 290 batting average, 817 OPS in his first 83 games last year. And I think what isn't really talked about is he was batting 290 his first half of the season with the Red Sox. And we kind of kept saying, wow, you imagine what the Red Sox would do with, the way he's hitting, they wouldn't have traded him. I don't think we realized this is why they let him go, is that the second half, he went from a 290 hitter to a 225 hitter. Like as soon as snap your finger, it was the second half of the season. He played in 59 of those games and he's hitting 225, a 635 OPS. And I'm not saying he's hitting, 225 now. He's still, in the 240 range. But I mean, that was, pushing 270 at one point with the Yankees. And we were like, this guy is a great fit and contact bat and all of that. And again, like he should have had a home run. I get it was robbed and he had a hit today. But lately he hasn't really been that reliable. And it almost people are concerned that the apex of his game was that Red Sox series at the very beginning because he hasn't really done anything since. And so I would push back and say we need to obviously see more, not going to just go off a trend like, oh, well, he was bad in the second half last year. So, yeah, let's just, react and trade him away. But the Yankees they're not committed to him. There's nothing there after this season. I don't know why the Cubs would necessarily take him, but I mean, I guess I do because if you're trading Bellinger, you're giving away that contract. And, right. You'd be switching out contracts and make it a little bit easier to take on that money for the Yankees. Mm-hmm. So I think I could kind of see that. I'm going to push back and say I don't think this happens. But I did see there was some stuff out there that Bellinger actually wanted to be a Yankee at one point in his career. The Yankees weren't really interested in giving him a long-term deal this year, so it didn't really come to pass. But yeah, it's interesting to say the least. And, he's not having his best year, but I think if you put him in a lineup with Soto and Judge and Volpe and Stanton, and, I think he could really start, turning it on. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he ends up even getting traded, if I'm being honest. But
he has to
I
be
found
in the
it
right
interesting
role.
nonetheless.
I want to be very careful with this prediction because I shouldn't even call it a prediction, just with this take, because of course you can't ignore these numbers. If somebody falls off a cliff in the second half of the year, 3 straight seasons, you've seen probably enough baseball to say maybe this isn't a guarantee to happen the fourth year, but you really haven't given me any reason through data to believe you will be a different player in the second half of the year.
Yeah.
And I think there's something to be said when you say, we're going to bring a guy who doesn't strike out a ton. He's a player he's a high contact player, and he's exactly what the Yankees needed, which was when he's going right, it's clear on the screen. This is a contact bat. He's not striking out. He can make quality outs. It's perfect, right? Perfect fit. But is a guy really a 275 hitter? And I know technically he is, but if you hit 310 in the first half of the year and then you hit 235 in the second half, and the trend is that he's going to hit 230 in the second half, well then I don't think you can treat all 250 hitters or 240 hitters the same. I think if a guy hits 250 for 1 month and then the next month he hits 240 and then the next month he hits 265, then you have like somewhat of a baseline and an understanding of what player you're getting. But if a guy shows you continuously, I'm a 300 hitter for the first half of the year and I'm going to hit 200 the second half, well, then you have to treat him like a 200 hitter in the second half of the season. So you have to plan for that. Okay. Like whether you have to trade him, whether you need to keep an eye on him and potentially bring up Jason Dominguez and replace him in the second half of the season. Maybe the New York Yankees said, we're going to bring in Verdugo, get that strong first half of the year. I'm giving Brian Cashman a lot of credit here. Okay. I'm not saying he's thinking this. I'm saying it's possible he's being smart. He's going to use Verdugo, okay, to have a strong first half of the year the way he always does. He's going to trade him out of nowhere. Okay, everyone's going to go, what are they doing? They're going to call up Jason Dominguez, and then the team who receives him, he's going to hit 225. Right? So I'm just saying potentially it's something that's happening. I'm not saying the wheels are turning that hard in Brian Cashman's cabeza, but it could be. So yeah, I'm not going to say that it's nothing because it looks like Verdugo can go like 6 weeks and just not get a hit at all and just look horrible. And then next thing you know, he looks like Tony Gwynn. So you don't really know what you're getting out of him. He was really good today. Like you said, really hard contact twice, got to hit once, but I don't know. It's definitely difficult to say. And as far as Bellinger goes, who you brought up earlier, I think it's the same thing with what's his name in Miami? Who were we just talking about?
Chisholm.
I always forget his name. So Jazz Chisholm is a guy that is super athletic. Bellinger's super athletic, but defensive versatility is something this team needs. We don't know what we're doing with Rizzo. A lot of people want to get rid of Rizzo. Okay. So essentially what you're telling me is that we have an opening at first base. Some people think Ben Rice can fill that. I do too. But also Cody Bellinger not only is an elite first baseman, analytically, he's an elite outfielder. Okay. He's got an excellent arm. He's a plus arm. So when you're talking about what to do with our outfield, if there's a hole, you get rid of Verdugo or you demote Domingo. I think I actually combined Verdugo and Dominguez there.
You did.
That's insane.
Right in the flesh.
Yes. So if Verdugo, if you don't think he's good enough in the second half of the year, they could just throw Bellinger out in the outfield. And then if you feel like, okay, well, we're going to get rid of Rizzo, you go ahead and throw Bellinger over at first base. Defensively, that just works. Now, it's going to be expensive. Cody Bellinger's, he's going to cost you a pretty penny. He's not a cheap player. Like, yeah, Boris did a terrible job with his contract, but he's still making a lot of money, right? He's not a cheap player. So I don't know. I'm not sure what's going to come of it. We're going to know closer to the deadline. They could be posturing to try and, scare another team and thinking like, oh, we need to do business with the Yankees earlier. You never know what's happening.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to VI on Twitter at V101010 who watches the show and everything. And, I put out my postseason lineup that I would want from the Yankees. And I'm not asking for a lot, First, Anthony Volpe leading off. Second baseman, Jazz Chisholm. Third, right fielder, Juan Soto. Fourth, cleanup, Aaron Judge. First base, fifth, DH, Giancarlo Stanton. Sixth, center fielder, Jason Dominguez. Seventh, catcher, Ben Rice. Eighth, left fielder, Alex Verdugo. And ninth, third baseman, John Birdie. That would be my ideal postseason because, I trust Ben Rice behind the plate. And I think his bat, as much as I love Austin Wells, I would do what I can to get him in the lineup because I think he has the best bat of any of the catchers that the Yankees currently have. But then VI's comment was Dominguez, Soto, Judge, Bellinger, Stanton, Chisholm, Volpe, Wells/Rice, Birdie. I thought that was interesting. So I said, you think Bellinger is a possibility, ? And he says Yankees and Rangers sent scouts the last couple of weeks to monitor him, Bellinger. Yankees always wanted Bellinger, but they didn't want to commit to a long contract. So shout out to him because, he had the idea of Bellinger first. I don't want to act like I did. And I'm not saying I had the first, idea of Chisholm, but I just think if you could get at least one of those guys in the lineup for October, you got to be feeling pretty good about that output. I'll say this. The way things went down with Montgomery, I'm not like bitter about that, right? I'm not still like, oh, whatever. It happened. It's done. I liked Bader. I can't sit here and act like I didn't like Harrison Bader. And I can't sit here and act like Harrison Bader wasn't the only one who was freaking hitting in the postseason because I'm not going to. But the reality is that showed everybody that no one is safe except Judge, Soto, Stanton because of his contract. And that's really it. They could trade anybody. They really could. And I mean, just even guys that are like contributors. So that's why I wouldn't get too close to, Gleyber Torres. I definitely wouldn't be going out and getting his jersey in a contract year. But regardless of how well he hits, just don't assume that he's safe. Don't assume Verdugo's safe because he was hitting very well. And, we talked about the potential of a contract extension. And I'm not flip flopping on that. I mean, if he goes back to hitting like that, finishes out the year like that, Jason Dominguez has another setback. Hate to break it to you, whether you like him or not, Verdugo's the left fielder next year. They're going to find a way to get that
contract. Yeah, because Dominguez, by the way, hasn't shown he can stay on the field at all. Let's be very clear.
No, he hurt himself on a check swing. So as much as I love the guy, I mean, I'll say this though. He's young. He's 21 years old. People look at that as a negative. I look at it as a positive. He's injured now. Can he get past the injuries? And I'm penciling him in for the October roster. I mean, that's how I look at it. I think he's going to be ready to go, and they're going to have him at the most vital time of the year. But the reality is that any one of these guys could be. I mean, Jason Dominguez could be traded. They might have just completely soured on him after that. Like, we have no idea. We have no idea.
We don't have information yet.
So, I mean, just like reading the tea leaves, and when they traded Montgomery, who was pitching well at the time, it just kind of opened up the door. And I guess it's more realistic now to just kind of assume that any of these guys could get traded. The one thing I will push back on is the idea that they all will go, because there has to be some sort of locker room chemistry, clubhouse chemistry. And Rizzo's well-liked. LeMahieu's well-liked. Judge is always around LeMahieu in the clubhouse. So, I mean, the captain really likes LeMahieu. They like Gleyber. You're not getting rid of all three of those guys, no matter who wants them to. They're just not. So I think one of them will go, maybe two.
Deadlines don't usually work that way. Like you don't just look at a team and say, well, I don't really like who we've got at DH, first base, catcher can get a little better, and we need some relievers, and then all of those positions that you just talked about are just out the door. Deadlines don't work like that. You usually pick up one, maybe two guys. If we pick up one guy, it needs to be impactful.
This isn't the Lakers the year they completely changed their roster in the middle of the season and went to the Western Conference Finals. Okay. That was insane, but that's not baseball. Okay.
Yeah,
that's not football. Yeah. That's not hockey. That's just the NBA. Like you said, only the NBA, you can literally change your entire roster except for two guys overnight and just be that good to the point where you get to the semifinals. Baseball's different. Okay. You have your farm system, so you can change things up a little bit, but for the most part, you're not going to be able to make that much of a leap. So I don't know. I look at this team right now. This is a big win. They needed this in the fashion they won yet again, 8-1. They got an off day, which is good. Maybe we'll drop a video later on the off day, something about maybe potential trades we like or something like that, just to give them something. But Tuesday, the Yankees are back at the stadium against the Reds. And I have a little inside joke for you that my friend Tyler's going to love. We went to a Yankees-Reds game, and I swear to God, Jonathan India batted 10 times. And it's so funny because I said that, right? And my friend Tyler noticed it. And then, this guy next to us overheard us, and he's like, now I think about it, I feel like Jonathan India bats like 10 times a game. And it's like, it was just like this inside joke because every time, like it seemed like every time Jonathan India, and be like, wait, he just hit. And it's not like they batted around.
Well, so let's hope this is not the case. Like, no, I don't want to see much of him. I feel like we saw enough of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa and Vladdy Jr. this series. I mean, they just killed us. Well, so the fact that we won this game, I was just happy about that.
Trevino, though, better not be out there because who is going to be stealing a lot of bases.
Ellie. Well, there's no logic to who we started catcher. I mean, this.
I know, but Ellie, come on. He's got over 40. All right. I actually have to ask you this. What's more impressive in 2024? 80 RBIs by July 1st or 40 stolen bases?
80 RBIs. Easily.
I agree. But the 40 stolen bases, I think, is something that's not even being talked about. And that's crazy.
I get it. You know why I don't think it is? I think in general, stolen bases are up. I mean, statistically, they just are. Bases are a little bit bigger, right? Guys can only pick up twice. Now, it doesn't mean it's easy to steal bases. I mean, that's not what that means. But
No.
there's an uptick across baseball. It just is what it is. And you can do something spectacular, but if people feel like there's something impacting those numbers, then they're less compelled to give you the nod. And then, of course, driving in runs and hitting balls in the seats is always more sexy than stealing bags, unless you're Ricky Henderson. So, yeah. And I mean, I guess we're going to have to control the running game. I don't know who's it's going to be. I know it's not going to be Trevino. So the pitchers have to hold guys on. They got to do something to slow Cincinnati down because Ellie's going to be running. He just will be.
Oh yeah. I mean, why wouldn't he be? I mean, he's unstoppable on the base path. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. Looking at their lineup, I mean, guys that kind of stand out before we go. Jonathan India, obviously, we joked about it, but leading off, batting, leading off and at second base, he's hitting 279. He's got a 408 slugging percentage, 383 on base percentage. He's having a good year. Ellie De La Cruz, I mean, not having the best year, but striking out a lot, but still batting 255, right? He's still a threat to steal any base. He's still a threat to go yard. Spencer Steer's another guy, So they have some guys at the top of their lineup. I'm not going crazy at the bottom of their lineup, but Fraley also is hitting 278 as the DH. Tuesday, it's Graham Ashcraft taking on Luis Heel. I really like the matchup. I agree. And this is a great opportunity for him because at the top of the lineup, if Heel can really shut down that top of the lineup, that bottom of the lineup, you want to talk about the Yankees 5 through 9. The thing that's hurting the Reds, it's why they're below 500. It's why they're below 500 on the road as well, is because they don't have a great lineup. It's Jonathan India, Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, and Fraley. Those guys are all at least hitting, we'll say at least 243. After that, you have Marte, who's hitting 214. You have Martini, who's hitting 209. You have Espinal, who's hitting 194. You got Fairchild hitting 232. Benson's hitting 191. So, I mean, they don't really have a lot. And so I think this is a good opportunity because Heel likes to get out. He likes to be a power pitcher early on. And if he has success against India, if he has success against De La Cruz, if he has success against guys like, Spencer Steer, then I don't see anybody at the bottom posing much of a threat. And
you don't have to worry about the run game if you control the bats. I mean,
exactly.
You can't steal bases unless you get on base. So we expect them to get on base at some point in the series. It is what it is. But the Yankees need to come out, take care of business. The bottom half of the lineup for the Yankees doesn't necessarily have to be as good as they were today, but they need to be serviceable. It's something that the Yankees absolutely need to improve. DJ LeMahieu needs to be more consistent, get the ball off the ground. He hit like 3 ground balls today. They found holes, and that's baseball. But we've got to get better down there. And if we can be better, a little bit more consistent, we should be able to take care of Cincinnati, no problem. Luis Heels had, I believe, 2 or 3 bad starts in a row. He's got to get his fastball command going first and foremost. After that, everyone's been saying he's tipping pitches. I don't believe that. I think Luis Heel in general is just not locating pitches. When he locates, he's dominant. When he doesn't, he's average. So we'll see what he's about probably by inning 3.
And Candelario's been out, so I don't know if he'll play or not, but obviously he's a big part of that lineup. He's leading the team in home runs with 14. But yeah, Heel, Rodon, and Stroman, big thing that I noticed is that you are going to see former Yankee Frankie Montas in that game against Stroman. That'll be the final game of the series. So
if we don't shell him, I'm going to be pissed. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to be pissed. No, if he pitches well against us, the Yankees should be ashamed.
No, I hear you. And the Yankees have an opportunity here. It's worth mentioning. They're tied right now with Baltimore. Baltimore has, of course, they have the tiebreaker because they swallowed the Yankees whole the last bunch of times they played them. But the Rangers 11-2 today. So the Orioles didn't take too much of it. And that's the thing. Say what you will about the Yankees. None of that really matters. We're on to July. Forget about June. They got out above 500, and they got out tied with the Orioles for first place in the AL East. All
We'll
of
take
that
it.
damage, and the Orioles did nothing with it. They lost 5 in a row. They weren't able to take advantage. When the Yankees were losing, the Orioles were losing. Some will look at that, the pessimist will look at that and say that was missed opportunity on the Yankees' part. They should have somehow found a way to win.
Sure.
The optimist might say, look, they didn't do anything. We didn't do anything. Clean slate.
It's a wash.
It's a wash. We're on to July. We'll see what happens in July. It should be a fun month. Obviously, late July should be really fun. And I believe at some point or another, we'll dive into it a little bit, but I believe the MLB draft is going to take place in July. Yes, it will. The 14th on a Sunday. So we'll try and have some sort of, some content splash for that. Maybe give a mock for the first round, who we want them to take, and, all that. Something that we could put together. Not going to go too crazy. We're not going to go, as deep as I go with the NFL draft. I can tell you that much. But
no, we won't be on there 2 hours talking about draft picks that probably won't make it to the big leagues and will sit in high A. But no, let's enjoy the off day. We had to win this game because I hate off days after losses. I don't know about anybody else.
Oh yeah,
baseball.
No,
it's definitely worse than the NFL when you lose and then you have a bye week. But I will say in baseball, it's bad because when your team loses in baseball, none of it's fun. It's not like the NFL where there's a bunch of action. Your team did stuff well. No, when the Yankees lose, it looks like they've never won a game ever. And the Yankees today, it looked like baseball was easy. So let's just pretend baseball is easy on our Sunday night. And as you watch this on a Monday, enjoy your day off. We'll see you Tuesday at the stadium.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Big upcoming opportunity there. Below 500 team. Go and get those wins. But that's going to do it for us. We hope you guys enjoyed. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. Be sure to follow us on all social media at JK Bogan, at Gary Sheffield Jr., and at Yankees Unloaded. But until next time, you guys take care.
And like this video.